You're my first thought in the morning, baby. You're the last when my day ends. It's been over a year since you've been with me, baby. I've been too long without you in my arms. And when I think of those lips kissing me, baby, it's hard to remember that you ever did me harm. With lips like that, you'll never be alone. No, no, no. With hips like that, you'll never sleep alone. No, no, no. When you call my number and I'm deep in slumber, I'll admit I'm glad I was. Maybe you miss the way I empower you, baby. Maybe you wanna hear a familiar voice. Thinking about all those times I'd sing to you, baby. With the way I felt, I didn't have a choice. Lips like that, you'll never be alone. No, no, no. Hips like that, you'll never sleep alone. No, no, no. When you call my number and I'm deep in slumber, I'll admit I'm glad I was.
Welcome to the River's Edge Radio Network. Zachary Lee and the band here in studio. We're going to be talking with them. Awesome. We've got live performances. That's the one of three. We've got two more coming at you all throughout the show, so do not change the video. Do not change the channel. Stay tuned right here to River Talk. This is the River's Edge Radio Network. I'm Brian Crawford. Zachary fell behind the board. This is broadcasting out of Mr. Small's Theater at riversedgepgh.com, Pittsburgh's voice for local music. We're here to talk about homework. Should it be banned? Some schools are banning homework after a study has come out that says that homework puts too much stress on kids, and people are pissed. People want homework, apparently. All of these angry old fogey who probably didn't do that much homework in school anyway. They're all on Facebook, all riled up, all pissed off, and angry. Livid that homework is no longer a thing. And it was fun. I went on, and I usually try to stay away from anything that's being said on social media, because it just, when you go up against a stupid person, they're going to beat you down with stupidity. But I feel like this time, talking about education, someone with a higher mind, or at least a mind at all, can rise to the occasion and maybe come up on top. And basically, according to the study, kids are going to school about 7.5 hours a day, which is close to an average work day. But when you got to factor in the bus time and everything else. And then they're doing 4.5 hours of homework after school. So really, that's like a 12-hour workday, in a sense. And I know that the people who are bitching and whining and moaning are also the same people that are probably bitching and moaning about kids not getting outside enough. So you really can't have it every single way. And then they're probably also the same people that are saying that they need to manage their time better to get 8 hours of sleep. So basically, it's impossible. But some of the comments were fantastic. And I was speaking to a lady at work about the situation, and she said that she feels that homework is necessary because it allows kids to retain what they learned during the school day. Well, that's a reasonable argument, right? Well, that's not the argument that everybody has been championing on Facebook. And like I said, you can have different opinions on the issue, but some of the arguments that people are making are so stupid. The prevailing argument that I've seen in this post by KDKA, which is where I saw this study come out, is that when you go to work and the job requires you to finish a project at home, how are kids going to be able to accept that if they don't have to do homework? Well, I asked the question, you're a dope if you let management con you into doing all of your work for free at home. I mean, what kind of moron does that? Who in the hell goes to work for 8 hours and then goes home and works off the clock for free for management? Like, are you stupid? What kind of job does that, and what kind of an employee would put up with that? Moron. So yeah, that's a really dumb argument. That's the number one argument that's been coming out with this whole homework situation. This other guy, I love this guy. His name is Matthew. He says that I'll actually read exactly what he wrote. I teach college-level AP European history. I'm down to assigning reading for homework. Kid barely even bother to do that. I responded, thank God you're not the language instructor. And then he continues to go after me, and I had told him, I said, well, at least one thing has been accomplished here. If there are any kids reading the post, they'll learn that even teachers can get scolded. It's just like, it's so stupid. Just the people just want to be angry, and they want to. It's all of these mostly baby boomers and the people who had everything handed to them, the union jobs, the high wages, the low cost in housing, the low cost in education. It's all of those people that have bankrupted the economy and has made it impossible for a millennial or whatever the hell the generation is after the millennial, for them to actually succeed and make it in this world affordably without killing themselves working 2 or 3 jobs or overnight like I did. Like you should be glad that this show's even happening today. Slept in until 6 p.m. I'm still wearing the clothes from yesterday. Couldn't fall asleep. I'm there laying in bed, and all I can hear is this racing noise back and forth above me. Like some sort of a game, like some sort of brawl was happening upstairs. I walked outside. I'm looking on the roof of the house, trying to find some sort of fox or something standing on the house. And that's all I can hear is racing back and forth, back and forth. So I look it up online. I'm laying in the bed. I'm Googling. And here, according to the internet, when you hear that, it usually means that a squirrel has gotten into your attic. I didn't even know we had an attic. I'm looking around the house trying to find the attic. I found it. But you can't really access it. So then I had to email the landlord, text the landlord. I'm in bed. I don't get any sleep, as is. But here we are. But I did my homework, right? I went on Google. And that was another thing. I'm looking at these comments, and the inability to put together a sentence, the terrible logic, the just the stupidity that was racing from Facebook. And I pointed out, I said, well, the homework doesn't seem to have helped you. So is it really something that you should stand that far behind? I want to hear your thoughts. Are you in favor of homework? Would you like to see it be banned? 412-407-2PGH. That's 412-407-2744. That is the number to text, or you can message us on the Facebook Live feed at RiverTalkPGH, or tweet me at RiverTalkPGH as well. Should homework be banned? Should it stay? I think most homework, this is just kind of where I've come down on the issue. I think most homework should be banned, but I do see the strong value in research projects and long-term projects. Assignments where you're not forced to go home and do busy work for 4 hours for no reason other than the fact that the teacher wants to make you suffer or feels that homework should be part of the curriculum just because. Just because. Why not? Let's do it. A research, a little pamphlet that isn't going to actually teach you anything except for memorization, which is really what homework usually does. It's a memorization tactic. Which is that really understanding the knowledge, or is that being able to recite facts and figures? But a research project, when you get into a project that expands over sometimes even several months, you really get involved in the project. Sometimes you're required to work with other people and to make arrangements outside of busy schedules. I feel like you can actually grasp a lot out of that and really, really learn the material. So I feel like there is some value in a research project. What are your thoughts? Was there any project that you did in school that helped you really understand the material or grasp the subject? Are you surprised with the response on Facebook? I'm not. I don't know why I even read the comments. It's depressing. It's depressing just to see how stupid people are, and it makes you wonder how any of this is possible. How have we gotten to a point where we can actually do these broadcasts and everything else? Because somebody else had to create it, and there's just such a void of intellect online and common sense and reason. I don't know. You guys here in studio, Zachary Lee, we've got the band here. We've got Luke Ross. And also here in studio, we have... Why am I not seeing your name here? Okay, we have Stephen Gallagher here. So, you guys, were you homework fans? Did you... Zachary, did you do homework in school?
I didn't do homework.
You didn't do
I
homework?
was assigned a lot of homework, but I didn't do it.
You just didn't do it. No,
right.
You feel like you're an intelligent person, right? Do you feel like you're...
I feel like I'm about at the upper end of average.
Yeah. Do you think that not doing the homework has affected your intelligence in a negative way?
No.
No, not at all.
In fact, it wasn't until I got into college when things really started making sense, when the homework was, as you said, papers, general studying, and group projects.
Now, did you see any value in those projects?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Why?
Well, first of all, when you're working with a group, it teaches you how to work as a team, You share ideas with people, and it forces you to be a little bit more creative. Keeps you accountable as well.
Yeah. Stephen, were you a homework doer? Did you do your homework? You did sex homework. Okay. So you're the one that allowed him to pass to get to college.
I got him through, so
okay.
it's pretty open now.
Oops. There we go. That should be better. All right. Let's turn off the mics because I sound like I'm in a cave. So some commentary from our guests there. Luke, you had a comment.
Oh, I was just getting closer to the mic, that's all.
Oh, okay, great. Did you do your homework?
On a rare occasion.
On a rare occasion, all right.
I agree with you on the long-term project thing. I think most of the big takeaways I had from school were based on longer projects as opposed to just day-to-day work. Because I think that's how the real world works. Like you think about doing a job. Like a lot of the jobs out there, rely on meeting a goal, over a certain period of time. And I think developing that skill in school is really important. So
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And what kills me is this thing with homework, where how many classes do you go in and nothing is accomplished? You sit there and you watch movies or do whatever. The best teacher I had in high school was a teacher named Mr. Huzar, and his entire goal in class was to prepare you for college, and he made the class extremely difficult, but then he graded on a huge curve to make sure everyone could pass the class. But his goal was to make sure that it was like a college class, and he was a really great guy. He only showed you one video the entire year, and it was about the Supreme Court, and actually showed the Supreme Court in a proceeding, and the idea was that you need to know who these people were. It was a government class and a history class, and how important they are to the United States government. That was it. And then we never had a day off until one day, and I really respected him for this. He never gave us a day off. There was never an easy day when you went in, except for one day, and it was because this one girl who was a very close friend of mine, her name was Lee, who was battling cancer, and she wasn't going to be there for the senior day where everybody dresses up. So he held a special senior day for her where we all came in and dressed up for his class, and he let that be the one day that everybody was able to just relax and have fun. So really great teacher. But the homework thing, I'm not a big fan of that, but what I am a fan of is what the governor is talking about. Governor Wolf, he is pushing to have less standardized tests in class, and he's pushing for more on-the-job training. On-the-job training and on-the-job work. That's one of the big things he's pushing for. He's quoted here as saying, "Why don't we go to business owners and say, this person graduated from X school and has been working for you for 3 years. How did we do?" To talk about like the long term. He basically wants to put people into job scenarios, get them a real hands-on education. To me, that's what's more valuable. That's where that research aspect goes into the research paper or other aspects. I was in scouting, and one of the big things when you go through your merit badges is if you do it correctly, you have to reach out to a merit badge counselor, you set up the meeting. Some of these things require you to do on-the-job work and work with people in the field, and I thought that was way more valuable than a lot of the homework that I did in class. A good example is spelling. They had these spelling assignments, and I was a terrible speller. And I would spend hours and hours and hours studying spelling. And I felt like an idiot because I would spend hours and I would go into class and I would fail the spelling test. And it was so bad that my parents weren't even upset with me. They're just like, yeah, you're dumb when it comes to spelling. They were like, you studied for hours. There was nothing more you could do. They literally said there was nothing else you could do to try to pass this test. Couldn't spell. But what saved me was actually the spell checker, not what you would think, because everyone thinks, oh, and that's, you get that same argument from the old fogies, oh, spell check, these kids need to learn how to spell. Well, because I had OCD, the spell check actually taught me to spell, because I never clicked the spell check button. I would just keep, when I saw that little squiggly red line, I would keep retyping the word over and over and over and over again. It's probably why I have carpal tunnel. But I would keep retyping it until that squiggly line disappeared. And then I learned the word. And it's crazy. I know how to spell now, but I didn't know going through all of those homework tests and things like that. And when it comes to things like history, does it really matter if you remember the exact date that something happened? I think it's more important to know that at Appomattox Courthouse, or I think it's more important to know that Arlington Cemetery, let's say that, is the house where Robert E. Lee lived, and the significance of that the Union decided to put this gravesite on his property as kind of a big FU to Robert E. Lee. I think that's more important than to know the exact day that decision was made, for example. Yeah, I think understanding the context of what you're learning and really actually why and how it affects society is more important than dates and numbers to a point. I mean, you got to know that the Revolutionary War happened in the 1700s to not know that and think that it happened in the 1800s. That makes a difference. But But I think most people are going to grasp that if they really learn the material. Some other comments that people made, which I thought were interesting, was maybe to extend the school year all year round or go through a block schedule where you have more time in a specific classroom, so you're not just running in and out of the class and not really grasping the material. So there are a lot of other interesting points that people have made, but man, the whole, oh, your boss is going to come in here and he's going to ask you to take your work home with you, and what are you going to do? Well, I'll tell you what I would do. I'd quit. Find a different job. Find a job that isn't going to take advantage of me. That's exactly what I would do. Now, I am in a union, so that gives me a little more flexibility. I guess some people, it's harder, especially with the job market. Looking at jobs and often considering looking for other employment. Nobody pays anything out there, so I guess you can get into a situation where you're stuck and trapped in a particular job. But generally, we do have labor laws, and your employer can't expect you to just work around the clock, nonstop. It just isn't reasonable. 412-4072-PGH. If anybody wants, okay, so Patrick says stop the talking and start the rocking. Well, Patrick, I'm going to talk for 5 more minutes. So we were going to bring Zachary Lee on in a few more minutes, but guess what, Patrick? Thanks to you, you're going to hear my beautiful voice for another 5 minutes. And Patrick, you can turn it off if you don't feel like watching, because, I don't know, fuck you. So, speaking of
give him the middle finger.
There you go, Patrick.
Pretty sure that guy's deaf.
Is he?
Yeah. I have a lot of deaf friends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I actually work in education.
Oh, that's right, you do, yeah.
Yeah.
So this topic is probably interesting to you, the homework
mildly, because I work in like special education, and it's at a deaf school. So I'm friends with a lot of deaf folks. A lot of my coworkers are deaf or hard of hearing, and I believe that's one of my buddies that's the Pat that said he was tuning in. He said he was going to talk some shit.
Oh,
so there he
right.
is.
I could talk about.
So the homework, the whole homework debate, I feel pretty strongly that it's not really necessary. My kids don't get homework, you know. In fact, the most important work that they do in the classroom is the work that they do with each other, socializing, group projects like you were talking about. I found those are incredible teaching tools, especially for kids like after the age of like 11, 12 and up, like all through high school. You don't really learn from adults as much. You're starting to learn from each other, you know. Kids learn more from their peers. So, you know, that's homework. That's just more time that they could be spending experiencing life or experiencing a social environment with their friends, you know, learning about hierarchies and about some of the important things in life that we're not really taught about in school, you know.
And don't you feel that these people that are coming down on the side of, you know, oh, they got to go and do the 4 hours of homework at work, don't you think those are also the same people that are saying that they need to get outside and play and that they need to get a job to help learn responsibility? I mean, my God, are these people ever going to sleep, these kids?
I think that everybody just wants to argue about everything. I think this is such a big issue right now. Like the fact that we have these debates on Facebook, and they can get really petty. But I think people who are outspoken against this and want to bitch and complain on Facebook, I think that they're just probably unhappy with their own lives and they're looking for something to complain about.
They definitely are. They're failures. They're miserable. It's like this AP history teacher who can't spell. He's probably either tenured and miserable, or he's possibly on the verge of getting fired because he can't do his job, because he can't even complete a sentence that is legible by Facebook standards. But I look at these people and I feel like there's this mentality from a lot of the old baby boomers in that where they feel that they, even though they've had it easy because they had everything handed to them, the wages, the health care, the pensions, the affordable housing, the cheap cost for education. They've had it all handed to them on a golden platter, yet they feel like for some reason they not only do they feel entitled to all of their benefits and they're unwilling to give anything to anyone else. for their retirement or to save the country because they bankrupted it. They're unwilling to give up one single benefit, but they're also the same people that feel like they've toughed it out and they had it hard, and we walked uphill both ways to school and this and that, when really they didn't do that much. I mean it was a time where they got everything handed to them, and it really wasn't any harder than it is today.
Right now where I work, at the school that I work at, there aren't any baby boomers. All the people that I work with, and I've worked in other schools too, I'm not seeing a whole lot of baby boomers. I'm seeing people that are my age, or around 30, up to 40. And I think those are like Generation Xers. Not to disagree with you, I definitely think that there's a strong sense of entitlement that comes with the generation that inherited an incredible economy and systems of government that work a lot more fluidly.
And they ruined it. They ruined the economy.
Sure. But the point that I want to make about this, and maybe it's the final point about this from me, is that the people that I see working in education, they work their asses off. So what's happening is you've got these people that put in the 7-8 hours in the day for the kids, and then they spend another 2 or 3 hours at their desk after the kids all leave, or maybe even an hour before the kids get there, doing extra work, catching up on grading. In my case, I don't teach. I'm a behavioral health specialist. So I do a lot of data collection and data entry, and all of that stuff has to be done when the kids aren't around. And guess what? If the kids aren't around and we're at work for like an in-service day, then we do trainings, we're doing work, So because I'm salaried, and because so many teachers and people who work in schools, faculty, staff, they're salaried, this like working outside of their scheduled hours, it's so common. In fact, it's expected.
Wow. That's crazy. I know in certain cultures it's like that as well. In Japan, right. They actually now are shutting the lights off in office buildings to try to force people to go home because they're literally working themselves to death, where they're working so much that they're committing suicide.
It's a competition. They're competing with their coworkers to their boss. It's a pissing contest.
Yeah.
Look at me. I'm still at my desk. It's 9 o'clock at night. The security cameras are seeing me leave at 11 p.m. And John over here, he left on his scheduled time to leave. So. It's become like this, and we have this culture here now as well. Like,
we take very few vacations here.
Right, right. So we compete with each other, and we almost see it as like a huge virtue. I put in way more hours than you. I put in a lot of work, or we look at somebody who we admire at the job who does a really good job, and it just seems like they're working this incredible, unrealistic amount of hours, and maybe they don't have kids at home or whatever the case might be. But I think this is where the homework is, because these people who want to push the homework on the kids, they want these kids to experience the same labor that they are. This teacher who's putting in an extra 4 hours in each day to keep the classroom right, he's like, well, I do it. So
he's also getting paid.
Sure.
Let's be honest.
Sure.
These kids are there. They're not getting paid. And then they're expected to get a part-time job. You want something? Go earn the money. Well, how in the hell are they going to earn the money when they're doing 4 hours of homework and they got extracurriculars and they maybe should sit down for a minute and eat dinner? Oh, that's another thing. These are also the same people that say, the family needs to sit around the table and have dinner together. Well, how in the hell is the kid going to sit down with the family and eat dinner when he's out working a part-time job and doing 4 hours of homework and trying to be in extracurriculars? It doesn't make any sense.
Sure.
Oh, and then also those same people will then complain that the kids aren't around church long enough, and this these kids are humans. They can only do so much in a 24-hour period.
Sure.
I think society right now, the children just grow up way too fast.
Yeah.
And, I think we should just let the kids enjoy their childhood.
Yeah.
I agree.
But they're being robbed of it right now.
A contrary view here on Facebook, Chris Solt says, no, the primary purpose of homework should be to engage parents in their children's studies, not to prep them for standardized testing with hours of additional work not covered in the classroom. And over an hour a night should be the standard. So I think that's interesting. That's an interesting point. I think there's some validity to that. It seems that Chris agrees with Governor Wolf that there should be some more of this on-the-job type of element to your studies. I do see some value in that, but I do think it should be limited. The problem is the teachers do not, and you could prove me wrong, but to my understanding, the teachers do not communicate with what other teachers are giving out. So how do you monitor how much homework is enough?
It's all very closely monitored.
Oh, it is?
Oh,
the
yeah.
amount of homework that's given out?
Yeah, the curriculum is not most of the time. In a few special cases, such as with like music teachers, administration is not really going to know anything about music or what level or even art. A lot of times, administration might not really understand that, so they just hire somebody who's a professional to take care of that. And in so many cases, they do a great job because they have that freedom. But the curriculum in a standard classroom for kids is very very closely watched, and it's almost passed down, and it's constantly discussed by teachers. I tell you what, man, like ever since I started working in this field, I've gained an entirely new respect for teachers who teach these difficult subjects like reading, math, language arts, history. That curriculum, those lesson plans are hard to build. They're really, and you have these parameters set by the state and by your administration that you need to follow.
But does that spill over into homework?
Of course it does,
Okay.
yeah. Absolutely it does. So, this will add another really difficult thing for teachers to deal with, because now they have to make sure that the kids learn this stuff, and they're only allowed to give a limited amount of homework. It makes playing catch up that much more difficult. So I think putting more and more restrictions on teachers is it's a rough thing, man. I can't really agree with that. However, I agree with the point that too much homework it's detrimental to a kid's education. It doesn't help it. It might supplement it a little bit if the kid's lacking. But and that point that the gentleman made about the fact that parents can get more involved with their kids' education. That's a great point.
I will say, though,
thought of
reading
that.
some of the Facebook comments, I don't know if I want these parents involved in their education.
Right.
412-407-2PGH, that's the number to text. Also on the Facebook Live feed, we're going to be back with the top news, the top 5, where we're going to talk about a pissed-off Santa, among many other things, in a texting tax. That's all coming up, but... And then we're gonna talk with Zachary Lee and the group about their music, and you're gonna hear them right now.
All right.
Here on the River's Edge, this is River Talk, broadcasting from Mr. Small's Theater. I'm Brian Crawford, here on the River's Edge.
Vacuum seal, you're on your own. You're on your own. Nothing is real until you're home. Welcome home. But a smile or a sunrise will take you in, make you warm in those eyes is a nebula, all the words of a quiet soul.
a smile or a sunrise, take you in, make you warm in those eyes is a nebula. All the words of a quiet soul. Is it possible to fake all the little happenings and movements in my sight? All the everything is good except for what is not, but that's okay for what it is. 'Cause a smile or a sunrise, take you in, make you warm in those eyes is a nebula. All the words of a quiet soul. In those eyes, oh, I see, oh, I see. In those eyes is a nebula. All the words of a quiet soul.
Great job by the Zachary Lee Band. It is the top 5 stories here on the River Talk. The top 5 topics that are interesting to me. Starts off with a pissed off Santa. Santa's angry and he's not going to take it anymore. There was a fire. And in a fit of rage, Santa threw off his hat, pulled off his beard, and started screaming at kids to get the fuck out! The mall has apologized to the parents, to everybody at the mall for Santa's outrage, but Santa's pissed off. Too much eggnog, too many Christmas presents. He's not taking it anymore. No more. There's a new ice cream that came out from Ben & Jerry's. It's called the Resistance ice cream. And I'm so sick of Ben & Jerry's. You know, I'm in favor of people standing up for Trump. I'm in favor of people speaking their mind, but it's goddamn ice cream. I'm sorry. And stop trying to capitalize on every goddamn political movement that comes across the internet. Ben & Jerry's. I'm thinking about boycotting Ben & Jerry's just because I'm sick of trying to capitalize and monetize the liberal movement. I mean, how opposite of what progressives are trying to preach is what Ben & Jerry's is what they're representing. It doesn't make any sense. I don't like it. Do you like it? I don't. The texting tax. California wants to tax you for texting. That is a tongue twister. And the arguments that the lawmakers are making make no sense whatsoever. They're literally saying that it's not going to affect people because they still are under the impression that most people use the cell phone for calling. Nobody calls on a cell phone anymore. Everybody texts. The idea, too, behind the text is that they are going to pay for the cell phone bills of people who can't afford cell phones by texting people who can. And I feel like I've become more progressive over the years. I'm okay with trying to help feed people and make sure people have housing and people have health care. I think universal health care is a noble concept. but everybody gets a cell phone? I gotta pay for your cell phone now? I can barely pay for my cell phone bill. How in the hell am I gonna pay for yours? I'm sorry, you don't get everything. Not everything in life needs to be handed to you, and I think it's not unreasonable to expect you to pay your own goddamn cell phone bill. According to my friend Andrea Pignus, who's on the Millville Music Festival committee with me, she has experienced the best subway advertising sign I think I've ever seen. While driving through Virginia, she has seen a sign that says, "Our subs are an honest 12 inches, even when it's cold outside." Even when it's cold outside. And a poll shows that Santa Claus needs a rebranding. There's a new survey by the company Graphic Springs, who surveyed hundreds of people that believe that old Santa is no good. The fat old jolly Santa needs to go. We need a skinny, hip, hipster, maybe transgender or woman Santa Claus. Santa's been around forever, and they say that Santa needs to be modernized. Santa doesn't need to be modernized at all. That's the entire point of Santa, is he's old. He's ancient. It's supposed to be this old tradition. Maybe he can have a sidekick. I don't know. But Santa has been around forever, and Santa doesn't need to change. He doesn't need to change. I like Santa the way he is. Just leave Santa be. There's nothing wrong with being an old, fat, jolly white guy either. Just have another beer like Santa does to keep his gut in shape. That's the top 5 here on River Talk. This is the River's Edge Radio Network. And I want to remind you that if you like the top 5, you may like the movie reviews that we have here every Thursday on P.O. Vincent. Don't get left behind in the movie scene. Check out P.O. Vincent Fridays 9 a.m. each week. Comedian Vincent Didiano is joined by fellow comedian friend and human megaphone Eric Williams to talk about everything from trailer releases to casting announcements. Each show ends with a review of whatever the latest movie of the week is. Listen to The River's Edge every Friday at 9 a.m. They record Thursday nights to see films through the P.O. Vincent point of view. Let's welcome back Zachary Lee band here in studio. We've got Zachary Lee. We have our friend Stephen Gallagher and Luke Ross all here in studio. Great performances by you guys so far. We still have one more coming up. I'm excited to have...
Let's hope it continues.
Let's hope it continues. I think it'll continue as long as the internet doesn't fail on us.
Sure.
And as long as...
do that at any moment.
It could do that at any moment. That has happened before. We're like... literally, I was in a show once. It was really weird because we have a direct line that, like, you could probably see the line going across the floor into the room, a giant Ethernet cable that connects this computer directly to the router.
That's the way to go.
It is, you would think, right? Well, one day during a show, the line stopped working. Not the line, but the internet stopped working. And I actually had to tap into the wireless router to finish the show to pick up the internet again. I mean, that doesn't make any sense, right?
I don't know, man. I mean, Ethernet cable can break like anything else.
Well, the cable wasn't broken, though. Because it worked later. It was just like a random glitch. Yeah, where the actual wireless connection worked and the Ethernet didn't. Whoever hooked this up obviously didn't do their homework. So
somebody hit you with an EMP charge or something.
Yeah, maybe. So we're here with you guys in studio, and you had a demo that was released in September.
Yeah.
And let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, this is the first installment of several sets that we're going to do. We plan on releasing 4 songs at a time.
Okay.
The next one is coming out very, very soon. We actually just finished up. I was in the studio today, just before this, finishing up the final touches on 2 of the songs that are going to be on the next one. And we're using USB thumb drives. Why? Because I don't use CDs. I'm just
What's
done
a
with
CD?
them. Yeah, exactly. CD's nuts. I'm done with them, man. And I download everything. You know, I either download it or if I get a CD, if somebody gives me a CD, or if I buy one from somebody's merch table, then I'm gonna go directly to my computer and rip it to the computer. Which, by the way, I had to buy an external CD-ROM
in order to do that.
So. Yeah, man, thumb drives.
You see what we do with our CDs? They prop up the cameras in the studio.
So this is the way we wanted to do it, because not only can we include tunes on there, but we can put video and pictures and all kinds of cool stuff.
I think that's a great idea, the flash drive idea, and you can have fun with that too. You can make it, you can paint it or do different
Right.
things with it as
Right.
well.
And they're cheap. You can buy 2 gigs now is so cheap. It's like $1.50. So yeah, we sell those. That's basically the only thing on our merch table right now. We're working on shirts and hats and all that stuff. And our second thumb drive is coming soon. We're working with Interval Studios in Washington, PA. A friend of mine, Johnny Interval, has been.
He's been watching the show.
Oh,
tonight.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. He's let us into his studio, and he's done a fantastic job. He has incredible equipment. He's got everything set up just right. And the beauty of it is that instead of like using a high-end studio where we're paying out the ass for studio time, he's has extremely reasonable rates, and we can take our time. We've gone over our allotted time so many times to get everything, get all the tracks laid down. I can experiment with stuff. I can lay just like the pros do. I can lay tracks down that don't really, that might not even make the final cut, but we have them there if we need them. Do multiple voice tracks, multiple guitar tracks, so we can pick and choose what we need. So that's been an incredible experience, and so, like I said, we just finished the mastering process on 2 of the tunes. We got 2 more in the hole, and we'll be coming out with our second flash drive soon to be selling at shows.
Cool. Now you guys are releasing 4 at a time. Do you feel like that's the future? We had Dead End Streets on last week here on the program, and we were talking about the concept of releasing the giant album or the EP, and the fact that people are now downloading singles. You mentioned downloading and doing everything digitally.
Sure, it's all on the internet now.
Yeah, but people are not consuming the large albums. They're consuming small bits. So do you feel that releasing a few at a time will help you guys market what you're doing and get more people to get into your music, because it might be a little more digestible for people in 2018?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love albums, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love albums. I love having a vinyl in my hands. I love seeing the art on and inside the album. I even love cassette tapes. When I was a kid, I used to get the cassette tapes, and they would squeeze all the lyrics in there somehow. But right now, well, sadly, what people are after are, like you said, like individual tunes. And
Is it sad though, or is it just different?
it's different. Sad for me.
It's sad for me too.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I used to buy albums and look through the booklet, and you had all the lyrics and
Yeah.
the pictures.
Well, I don't think albums are ever going to go away, because I
No.
think hardcore music fans are still going to crave that
Sure.
that album and want to do that, and you're still going to have those people. You're shaking your head. Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's no reason we can't still release an album. You know what I mean? We could Lock That Demo is the first installment here. It's essentially a demo, okay? And once we have all of our tunes fully mastered, fully ready, we can do a full album. We can have the artwork. We can make vinyls. We can make cassette tapes and CDs. And I feel that when people are buying CDs and cassettes and stuff like that at shows in vinyl, a lot of times what they're looking for is not even the tunes, because they could easily download the tunes, especially the people that we're playing to. They want something to hold on to. They want something tangible. They want, like I said, the art, the lyrics. They want something that they can go home with. They might never even open the vinyl. They might never even open a CD case. They might just use the code on it or whatever to just download it anyway. But it is so very nice to have that in your hands.
It is, yeah. I remember our old studio we had. I actually stole this concept from Zach and I, our previous station, WCAL. Over Zach, I don't know if you ever saw this, because I don't know if it was before your time or after your time, but they used to have all of these CDs in the ceiling. They had a drop ceiling, and they had all of these CDs, and when you would walk into the studio, you could look up and just see like over 100 CDs
Right.
looking down on you.
And
it
that
was-
fits on something this big now.
Yeah. It was so cool, and we
Yeah.
did that at our last studio. We had all of we actually put the cases in the ceiling, so you could see all of the album art from all of the different CDs when you would walk in. We don't have that same kind of ceiling now, and all of our CDs melted in a terrible fire. But we did have that for a short time. It was really cool, and there is a visual element to that, which is really cool, and it allows you to be creative as
Sure.
well.
Sure. So these are essentially demos that we have, and we're releasing them in 4-song installments because we got to have something to offer while we're in the process of this album being mastered and mixed and made. Really, I think we still have some drum tracks and a few other tracks to lay down before it's complete. But we'll be releasing the songs in installments, so you can have that up front before the full thing is out. We're also, we also let our music is free to stream on ReverbNation.com/Zachary Lee 5 and at our website, ZacharyLeeMusic.co. You can listen to our tunes. And
Where did you guys get your website from? Because .co is usually, like, I believe, a British tag or whatever you call it. What do you call that .com, like the end of that thing? I don't know what it's called.
Let me tell you something. ZacharyLee.com and ZacharyLeeMusic.com are listed for about $3,000.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
And I know that there's haggling and wiggle room there for sure, but I just didn't feel like dealing with that headache. You can buy a URL so cheaply and so easily.
Yeah.
It's like a .co or a .uk.
Well, my .co was not a criticism. I just was curious where you got it from, because I know, only reason why I know that is we use some services here at the River's Edge, which is .co, and I also listen to a lot of international radio and things like that. So I hear these web addresses all the time. So I'm just curious. I'm like, where did you get your domain? So you just picked one out and it just happened to. Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, I bought a few of them actually.
Okay.
The .co is the only one that's active right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And my girlfriend is she works in web design and graphic design, so she helped out with making the web page.
Nice.
Which is still a work in progress, but she's done a great job so far.
So you and Steven have known each other since you were kids, correct?
Yes.
Both skipping homework together. So
Skipping class together.
Skipping class together.
So
Yeah.
your parents aren't listening, are they?
So have you guys always played together?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd been playing guitar for almost a year, and this other guy that I was playing with at the time, we were playing metal, strictly like Metallica, Megadeth, all of your faves, I guess. And he says, "Hey, this buddy of mine, Steve, just got a bass. We should bring him over." And I was like, "Okay, all right, sounds good." So he comes over, and what was it? A Silvertone bass?
It was an Ibanez.
Ibanez. Oh, okay. It was Shane who had the Silvertone.
Yeah,
He
Shane
started
had
out with
the
like a first
Silvertone.
act or Silvertone guitar.
It's $200.
Yeah, well, there you go. So, we immediately took off. We started playing together, probably at the age of 12 or 13.
I had only owned a bass for 3 days,
Oh wow.
so fake it till you make it.
Yeah. And then through high school, we
understand.
did music. We did different music programs together. We were in choir together, and we just, we've been thick as thieves, and then the real turning point in our music was when we were around 17, 18. We started taking lessons from this cat named Alan McDonald, and he had a sweet studio set up. His lessons were very affordable, and he just threw charts at us. He would just throw charts at us, and we would either get it or we wouldn't, and that's how it is in like the cover band scene or in a lot of band scenes. Homework. It's homework is what it is.
Now, if you didn't get it, did he rip off his beard and start yelling at you? Or?
Only Zach, because he didn't do his homework.
I did get yelled at one time. I don't remember it, but he was just telling me,
Yeah.
"Hey, you remember that time when Alan McDonald was screaming at you because what was that song?
All Right Now. You missed a change on All Right Now.
All right now, yeah." And he went off on me, and I'm like, "Oh."
And music
Sorry,
people can be
man.
super intense, because I know being involved in marching band, we would be up there. Okay, you were in marching band, Luke? Okay. So what's band were you in?
North Allegheny High School.
North Allegheny. Okay, I was in Norwin, and it was super intense there, and I just remember we'd be doing drill, and the band director would get mad, and he would just throw a metronome off the band tower just complete. Like there's so much equipment that has been broken at Norwin from the band director, who no matter who it is, throughout the years it's changed, but just throwing equipment, being pissed
I
off.
think we've all experienced that.
Yeah.
Something we've all had a music teacher or an instructor flip out at one point or another. I studied music in college, and I got to say that never happened.
Never happened.
But yeah,
in
my college instructors were all pretty straight up. They're all pretty cool, calm, and collected.
Well, why do you think there's this change from
I don't-
high school to college?
I don't know,
I
but
think it's interest. Some of the kids
Interest.
just aren't interested. They don't get it.
Well,
Sure.
maybe I think one of the reasons is at least from my experience is in high school. Now I don't know. Were you guys were competition, North Allegheny?
We were,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So there's that competition element where
Sure.
in college, at least in the college I went to, there was no competition. So I feel like it wasn't as intense because you're not trying to get a certain score to beat out your competition. I know with Norwin, our big competition was Kiski, and we were always fighting, in that regard. So I think there's that extra pressure. Maybe that's why.
Well, when you're even if you're just performing, not competing, even if you're just performing music, even this music that we do, sometimes we're trying to get a tune down or work something out, and the deadline is so close, and it's of paramount importance that we get it. It feels like life or death. But it's only music, as they say.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. And with Norwin, I mean, it was just like so crazy. I had a dream once where I was looking at myself through a bird's eye view, and I'm sleeping in the hallway of the band hallway. We had our own hallway with our own lockers. We had two sets of lockers. It was really kind of a waste of money, but for some reason we had two sets of lockers. One of them was down in the band hall, and I'm there laying on the floor sleeping, and I'm watching myself, and I hear the metronome going off from band practice, and I'm going through like this panic attack because I'm like, no, I'm running late. I'm running late for band practice, but I couldn't move. I couldn't get myself to wake up. Well, then I finally woke up, and here it was my alarm that was going off, and in the dream, that alarm was the metronome. But I was going through like this panic attack because I thought I was late for band because that's how intense they were, and they make you
Well,
run
Luke
laps.
sleeps
or-
with a metronome in his ears.
Do you?
I've picked up the habit recently.
Picked up the
It's,
habit.
It's been known to work.
It helps, man. I mean, the other thing I love to do is, I have a metronome where the beats cut out every couple of measures. I'll have it in for a few
okay.
measures when I'm practicing, and then it'll cut out. So, you can kind of practice how well you can hold it in and hope you're not totally screwed over when it, you think it's beat.
That's actually a really-
beat 3 and it comes back in on beat 1. But
That's a really great idea.
It's a cool
actually.
idea.
Or-
yeah,
It is.
or
it's been
practice
helping
your
a lot.
Practice your metronome very slow.
Yeah.
And slug it down to about 40
Right.
beats per minute.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I mean that's one of the first things I learned, being a part of NA's program is you always practice a whole hell of a lot slower than you think you need to, and you work your way up to fast. Because if you try and just start off fast, then you're going to end up having a lot of dirt that'll get cleaned up when you start to slow it down.
Sure.
So
That's a good idea. I really love the idea of where it starts to take things out because that helps you not rely too much on the metronome because it can become a crutch, especially when you're like younger or when you're in a large group and you're
In the
trying to
studio.
learn. Oh, I can
It can
imagine.
be a crutch in the studio.
Learning music, I mean, everyone learns music at a time.
Yeah,
You're not learning it to a click track.
right.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
we just cut a tune down at the studio a few weeks ago, and we didn't play it to a click track. We were just all being recorded at the same time, and we just went for it, and like it ended up sounding, pretty tight, pretty together, because it just comes with experience, playing with these guys and learning, dynamically, what they're doing, and it can end up being a whole lot better than trying to play to a click, because it just kind of helps the whole thing sound more cohesive. So.
And once you're off the click, you're off the click, baby. And that thing's in your ear, and it's just going to distract the hell out of you.
This is true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
man.
is very fair. Speaking of cohesion, Luke, you joined the band later.
Yeah,
When
so
did you
I just joined this past August. I had just finished up a summer semester at CCAC, going
Okay.
to finishing up my associates in computer science. And I was just at a point in my life, man, where I was just like, man, I want to be playing music again. I was in a project out of high school for a couple of years that I ended up unfortunately taking a turn for the worse, so I had to get out of that. But I'd been volunteering at my church on their worship team and stuff, so I had a lot of fun playing drums with that. But I was just really missing that aspect of my life. I was feeling like I wanted to be a part of a project again. So went online and found this Craigslist ad and started reading about this guy named Zachary Lee, who's had a classical classical background, choir training, performed at Carnegie Hall at the age of 18. I'm like, all right, this guy's about something. So I go on his SoundCloud and I listen to a few of his tunes, and I was like, man, I got to play with this guy. So didn't have a drum set at the time or anything. All I had was a electronic TD8 kit that my dad had recorded some CDs with back in the 90s. But I text up Zach and I'm like, yo man, I got this electronic kit. Can I come audition? So I pack it up in the car and I drive over, and we worked on some of the original tunes, and we were in Interval Studios next weekend, if I recall correctly. Man, we really hit the ground running. It's crazy, you know. We were talking the other day. I forget sometimes that, you know, it's only been like 3-4 months that I've been here, just because it already feels like such a long time. The amount of shows, the amount of studio time, you know, the amount of projects that, you know, the amount of headway we've already made. So it's really encouraging to see the positive momentum we have. So yeah.
Very cool. That's great. That's great to see it when it clicks like that. You kind of know right off the bat, right, whether something's going to click or not.
Right.
Well, this kid shows up at my door, and 20 years old, and I'm like, all right, let's see what we got going on here. He brought in an electric drum kit into my studio room in my apartment, and his playing was on point. But because he was playing an electric kit, everything sounded like it was the soundtrack out of an Eddie Murphy movie. And so I couldn't really make heads or tails of it, you know. But I knew that he could play. I knew he was a player, and I knew that he had huge enthusiasm. So you know, I'm like, well, this I can work with, somebody who wants to play original music, somebody who wants to be a part of a scene and a culture here in Pittsburgh, because that's what we're aiming for, you know. In the past, Steve and I have done a lot of like cover projects, and you know, played at sports bars and stuff and get paid decently and then go home. But that's not a great way to build a fan base or a you know, be a part of a culture here, you know. So that's what we're really aiming to do now, and Luke seemed to be willing to do that and understand that, you know, we're going to be playing a lot of shows for free, and the payment that we're going to be getting is just the enthusiasm and the energy we're getting back from people, which is, you know, what I love that. You know, it's not about adoration or you know, people fawning over me or kissing my ass or anything. What it's about is just that sharing of the music and that give and take of performing with the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And Luke had mentioned you had performed at the Carnegie Music Hall in New York City. I do want to touch on that real quick before we get one last song out of you guys to wrap things up. How did that happen?
Well,
what's the story there?
Yeah, I mean, I was in a bunch of different choral programs when I was in high school. Spent a lot of after-school hours practicing and working with different groups, not just with my high school, but all state and different churches, different organizations. And anyway, my voice and the voice of some of my peers from all state choir, we were noticed by a woman named Judith Willoughby. And she was preparing a different. It's like an updated version of Mozart's Requiem, where they found all these old texts and stuff that they are pretty sure were Mozart's.
Oh wow!
And so she invited us to perform this for the first time for the world at Carnegie Hall. And I'll tell you what, man, I didn't think it would be like the turnout like it was, but you know, rehearsing in Carnegie Hall was incredible, but when you go out onto the stage and see Carnegie Hall absolutely packed, absolutely amazing, you know. So it's that experience and a lot of other experiences I had with you know, classical music and jazz and all those teachers that have really pushed me forward and helped me become the musician that I am today. Speaking of big stages, we're going to be here at Mr. Small's on the 22nd.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
The Yinsmas?
Yinsmas, yeah, that's right. We are really stoked about that, you know. We're new on the scene here, and we've been offered a lot of opportunities, you know. List Victory heard us for the first time at Hambones about a month ago, and she asked us to be featured at her Gart House party, and that was an absolute blast. Feels so good to be a part of the Pittsburgh music scene. It really does, especially coming from Morgantown, where we're from. It's the music scene it's there, but there are a lot of things that can be picked up by those bands down there, learning how to work with each other and invite different styles of music in.
Yeah, well, Liz is very good at that.
Oh, she's incredible.
Involved in our network, and then Wake Up on Fire Productions, which is putting on the Yinsmiths event.
Right.
They're fantastic as well. So you guys are definitely making
William, Brandon, those guys are awesome.
Yeah, you guys are making some great connections there.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've just been great dudes. They've been great. Everybody's been so awesome, when we were at Gart House, Nick Graybeal jumped up with his trombone in the middle of High Class Problems, one of our tunes, and just started cranking it out. It was incredible. The feedback and the love we've gotten from the music community here has been fire, dude.
Yeah. Well, Betty is a big fan of yours. She said that you guys played a big birthday party at Bella Sera.
Jerry's birthday, yeah.
And it was awesome, and
Yeah.
everyone loved the originals and the most amazing covers as well. So they liked everything you guys were doing.
Great,
So,
yeah.
good stuff there. So cool. So we are going to have one more from you guys, but before that, I do want to say you had mentioned church, Luke, and I want to let everyone else know next week I'm going to be talking about a subject where I have come at odds with my former congregation, at least several members in it. We're going to talk about singing in public as one of the topics. So stay tuned for that. Tune back in next week, Sunday. It's going to be on the Sunday show at 7 p.m. Don't forget, I'll be back this Friday. And I also want to remind you to subscribe, rate, and review The River's Edge on Apple Podcasts. Listen to your favorite shows like The Mike Sasson Show, Gike's Got Game, and P.O. Vincent on Apple Podcasts or any of your favorite podcasting apps. I'm Brian Crawford. Thanks to Zach Fell behind the board. Thanks to Brent Conley, our producer. And thank you for listening to River Talk. This is the River's Edge Radio Network, broadcasting from Mr. Small's Theater at riversedgepgh.com. One more from Zachary Lee and the band to sign us off. Good night.
I don't wanna forget. I don't wanna forget. I don't wanna forget what your lips feel like. I don't wanna forget. I don't wanna forget. I don't wanna forget what your skin smells like. You need to remind me. Please remind me. I don't want